Hish James, welcome back to the channel. I am so glad you are here. Hopefully I can get through an entire video without being interrupted. I don't know what's going on, but for some reason, Booking.com seems to love me. So much so that during the day, I have seen over a dozen pop-up ads. I literally will be watching football on YouTube TV or checking my Twitter. Refuse to call it X, Elon. That's a whole nother video. I'm just so unbelievably frustrated. Plus, my health situation hasn't gotten any better. Well, actually, take it back. I don't want to get into the details, but please keep me in your prayers. I'm bleeding from a place that you never want to be bleeding from. I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, I'm not prepared to talk about what I wanted to talk about. I slept a lot today, just trying to get well. And here's what I can tell you. Everything that I have read, every video I've watched so far about this Doug Weiss person, the more and more I learn about him, the more I just it just makes me cringe. Several women have now come forward saying that they went to Doug Weiss's counseling, and I use that in quotes. He basically tells these women when they're, being counseled as a couple with their husbands that, well, it's your fault pretty much. You're just not having enough sex. And if you would just have more sex, your relationship would be better. And it's like, and I keep trying to find any justification for using a polygraph. And like I found one article that talked about counselors that deal with known SOs. These are people that have been found guilty of a crime and therefore are being watched and being monitored to make sure they don't repeat those crimes once they're released from prison. They will often, a psychologist will use the polygraph to make sure that this person has no intention of ever harming a young person ever again. Or as our friend on Not By Sight News will say, to make sure they aren't found guilty of mistreatment ever again. I wish I knew that dude's real name. I hope one day to meet the guy. I really think the guy at Not By Sight News I just think he's cool. If you like this kind of content, go check out his stuff on Not By Sight News. He seems like a really, really awesome dude. So anyway, I'm distracted and I'm frustrated, but here's what I'm going to tell you. You see, a lot of people don't understand just my wide variety as far as my background is concerned. So let's talk healthcare and my experience. I moved to Stillwater, Oklahoma, July 1st, 1997. I actually moved to help start a church. I was a part of the International Churches of Christ. But about a month or so in, I had a temporary job when I first got there, and then I got a job at this facility for people who had developmental disabilities. And I ended up staying there for like 5 years. I eventually became a case manager, and I worked a lot with different therapists, physical therapy, occupational therapy, the nursing staff, psychologists, psychiatrists. So I learned a lot about the field of mental health. I mean, we had 91 clients at one point. The state of Oklahoma eventually made us downsize to 72, but I worked with people who did counseling for years. And then later on, I actually got to manage a group home. I did that twice. So I had a lot of healthcare experience even before I became a hospital chaplain. And then later I worked as a prison chaplain. Well, I was a hospital chaplain for a while, then did prison chaplaincy, and then went back into hospital chaplaincy. And I'll say this, in my own experience, being an adult child of an alcoholic, I was challenged by somebody that I trusted a lot to go get counseling for myself. And we met for like 5 or 6 months. And I was dealing with a lot of very personal stuff that happened to me as a child. And I never, the subject of a polygraph never came up. I went to marriage counseling with my first wife. Very older couple, very mature couple. Not a polygraph in sight. I had a situation happen to me in Kansas City where I felt somebody was being abusive with their power. So much so that it was affecting me off the job. I literally was having nightmares about my work. So I went to a counselor. We talked. And I was trying to deal with some stuff that happened to me as a teenager. So I've been to counselors. I have worked with counselors, and I've never had anybody ever tell me, I think we should do a polygraph. I think we should do an interview. And you know why? Because number one, when a counselor, and I do you have to understand, I have been trained to do brief counseling. I don't do therapy. I'm not qualified to do therapy. But the one thing I do know is that if I'm talking with somebody, I don't want anything between them and me. No machine, no a table maybe. But typically, I'll sit in a chair and they'll sit in a chair and there'll be nothing physically between us. Because I want it to be an atmosphere where they feel safe. I want it to be an atmosphere where they feel they can say anything. And as long as they don't plan on hurting themselves or somebody else, what's said in that room stays in that room. I believe in 100% confidentiality. Why would you have a polygraph? If you have a polygraph, then you also have to have an audio recording of the conversation to match the polygraph. That way you can say, at this point, it spiked and it did something different, and therefore the person was being deceptive. The more I dig into this, the more I am convinced that Doug Weiss should not be counseling anybody anywhere. But I promise you, I'm going to do more digging into this, and when I get a full answer, I'll present it on the channel. So, until then, if you are new, please hit like and subscribe. I do want to thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I did not get the chance to watch Gateway Church's candlelight service. I will do that tomorrow. I've got a long day tomorrow, and I've got a lot of work to get caught up on. But I promise you, during the holiday season, even when I'm on vacation, I'm going to be working and reading and studying. And something's not right. Whether you agree with Joni Lamb or not, I'm coming to the conclusion that the real root of this problem with Daystar is Doug Weiss. But we'll see what happens. Maybe if they would do a third-party investigation, they could not only clear Pete's name, but they could also clear Doug's name. Because I'll tell you this, Doug Weiss is no visionary. He's not Marcus Lamb. Marcus Lamb, with all his flaws, with all his quirks, with all the mistakes that he made, his desire was to see the gospel spread throughout the entire earth. And I think that's a good cause. And I do think Daystar can be reformed if Jonathan's put in charge. So, but that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. It's okay if you disagree. That's fine. We can agree to disagree on things. The main thing is we want justice done, especially for Susie Lamb. I would just love to see Daystar admit that she was harmed by that chiropractor. And that little girl of Jonathan and Susie's, she was abused by somebody. And we need to find out the truth. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.